Minister of National Security Edmund Dillon said the National Crime Prevention Program was anchored in government's 2013 National Security Strategic Plan and will address the root causes of crime and criminality and make communities more resilient. Now, the National Crime Prevention Program will be implemented, according to him, on a phased basis, and 15 community crime prevention councils representing 14 regional corporations and the Tobago House of Assembly will interface directly with communities to determine their needs and respond appropriately. And we understand that the program will first be implemented in the Diego Martin and Chaguanas corporations and the THE before being rolled out in the other 12 corporations. And here to tell us more is the National Security Minister himself, Mr. Edmund Dillon. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Ms. Barrett, and very good morning to the listening public of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share with the public the program that was launched last Wednesday, the National Crime Prevention Program.
Now, what is this program all about?
First of all, let me put that program within context, because crime and criminality and, in fact, issues in the national security environment are very multidimensional. And as such, any attempt to treat with issues of crime, criminality, and violence must also be multidimensional in scope and intent. So that agencies of national security are what we call using the hard approach to crime. The law enforcement agencies, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the other agencies of national security, have been and continue to use the hard approach to deal with crime and criminality. As a matter of fact, they are being treated with issues that are what I consider to be at the end of the criminality spectrum, so that they treated offenders sometime after the crime has been committed, after the minds and the thoughts of individuals have already been shaped by societal norms and so on. This program, the National Crime Prevention Program, the key word in this program is prevention. Okay. Prevention of crime within communities and so on. The National Crime Prevention Program is a community-driven initiative engendered to engage, to educate, and to empower communities to treat with crime and criminality at a prevention level. The program involves, in its initial phase, we're going to be sampling 3 of the municipalities. There are 14 municipalities in Trinidad and Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly. We are going to initially using 2 of those municipalities in Trinidad, Chaguanas Borough and the Diego Martin Corporation and the Tobago House of Assembly. The program is embedded in our national security strategy, but more importantly, in our Vision 2030 in terms of governance, in terms of meeting the people, but also in terms of an area of excellence and sort of community-driven approach. More importantly, we have adopted what has been the government's policy and whole-of-government approach to government. But we've extended that whole-of-government approach because we believe it's not just the whole-of-government approach, it's a whole-of-society approach, whole-of-community approach. So the fundamental principles of the National Crime Prevention Program is based on empowering communities, treating with the fear of crime, and more importantly, empowering the communities with issues that are germane to those communities.
Right, so we've been talking a lot about communities, engaging them, educating them, and empowering them. When we talk about the communities, we can't help but talk about confidence in the police. How can we improve the public's confidence in the police so that in the event that community members, they have information, they feel comfortable enough to come forward with that information, knowing very well that there is some sort of witness protection unit in place so that their lives would not be endangered?
All right, let me move away from that question a bit, because you see, I don't want the impression to be created that the National Crime Prevention Program is about intelligence gathering, or it's about information and so on, sort of intelligence getting to the police in question of witnesses and so on. The question targets more preventional scope. So that we want to empower the communities to look at what are the issues and challenges that are shaping crime in the respective communities. First of all, let me give you an idea as to the structure of the program, and then I'll come back to answering your question. The program is structured with an interministerial committee that's based at more of the PS and so on level, and then there's a secretariat. Out of those secretariat, you have 15 liaison officers. Those are the liaison officers that establishes contact between the interministerial committee and what we call the Community Crime Prevention Councils. The Community Crime Prevention Councils, they are based at the 14 municipalities and Tobago. That's the Community Crime Prevention Council, the council that are germane to the community. Now, within that Community Crime Prevention Council, there are a number of stakeholders that are part and parcel of the various communities. So you have the faith-based organization, the NGOs, the chamber, the social development agency in the area, the principals in the area, the fire, the divisional officer in the area, the police divisional officer in the area, the cultural groups, the community centers. So it's a wide range of stakeholders, people who are up and about in those communities, who understand the communities, who deal with issues in the communities. They form part of the Community Crime Prevention Council. Community Crime Prevention Council would also involve meeting with the man of the streets who have an issue. So for example, if there is in a particular community where there is let me use a simple example. There's a sport field that has not been well taken care of. There's a pavilion that's run down. There's no lighting and so on. The drainage around that pavilion. And people are using that pavilion for gambling, for involving in illegal activities and so on. And the community is saying to us, let us see what we can do to prevent that from shaping crime. Now, they would bring that to the Community Crime Prevention Council. Somebody of the street can bring it. So some member of the community can bring that to the Community Crime Prevention Council. They will sit down and treat with that issue. But they themselves cannot bring the resources to bring, because there's several issues I mentioned there. One in terms of the sports field itself, another in terms of the lighting, another in terms of pavilion, another in terms of those who find time to gamble or to involve in illegal activities. So that requires what we call a number of different ministries to get to engage in solving that particular issue. So that readily you can see there's an issue there for the Ministry of Public Utilities. There's an issue there for the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs. I mean, there's an issue there for community development, because there may be a community center nearby. In most cases, there are community centers near the sports field and so on. There's an issue of Ministry of Works and Transport with respect to drainage and so on. Now, if you bring the collectivity of all those ministries to treat that simple issue, you can see the redounded benefit. Those issues then will belong up to the interministerial if it cannot be handled at the community crime prevention level. We said, listen, we have a sports field in Guapo. We have a sports field in Guapo that there's an issue there. Yeah, poor lighting, it's a sort of a bed. It's shaping individuals in a certain way to create crimes and so on and so on. Let's deal with that. Let's create that space. Because, see, one of the criminological theories speaks to what they call crime prevention through environmental design. In other words, your physical space sometimes shapes the individual mind to create crime and criminality. So let's shape that physical space. Let's shape that environment. And so you go into that environment and you put proper lighting. You take care of the sports field. You build the pavilion. You put people in charge in the communities of that pavilion. You do the drainage and so on. So immediately, you move away the kind of mindset of individuals that this is a place that we can conduct illegal activities. So that's one of the simple issues. But there are several issues that are germane to various communities. So understand the multiplier effect. If we were to transmit that across the 14 municipalities and Tobago, where issues that are germane to communities are identified by them, and together we look at solutions. But solutions are not done by just the communities by themselves, but also utilizing the whole of government, whole of community approach to treat those issues. So that is why it is not just about the government doing something. There's an engagement with the government, the community, law enforcement, and the wider societies coming together and, in fact, shaping their own solutions. But again, looking at how can other resources can be brought to bear on that particular situation. So and that's the genesis of the National Crime Prevention Program, empowering communities, dealing with the fear of crime. So coming back to your question, in terms of the confidence in the police service, the only way you can build confidence is by building relationship. That's the only way you can build confidence. It takes, even at the level of the individual, whether it's a husband and wife, whether it's a child and father, confidence can only come about when you build relationship. We get a relationship based on trust. And that's where confidence comes in. So that we have some work to do in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service together with the communities reaching out. And in fact, the National Crime Prevention Program is another branch that utilizes that, because we are bringing the communities closer to the Trinidad and Tobago, because they are part and parcel of that wider stakeholder engagement. So the communities have a way, as a matter, to interface with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, but also the wider community. So that building confidence is a more presence of the Trinidad and Tobago Police within communities, reaching out and so on. And so that relationship is what will build the trust and confidence that's required.
Now, what role do you think the crime detection rate plays in preventing crime?
Well, detection rate is, and you would heard me some time ago talk about areas that the Ministry of National Security would be strengthened in terms of the structures, the capabilities and effectiveness of the agencies of national security. So now we are moving away slightly from the crime prevention program. Also, it is also in terms of detection. But in terms of the detection, I find that we have been looking at one, technology, two, human resources. So we have strengthened what we call the crime scene investigators in terms of the human resource component. We have strengthened the Homicide Bureau of Investigation, the human resource component. But we also looking at how can we use technology in terms of crime detection. And so we have embarked on establishing the DNA. You have seen the Attorney General have passed the DNA Act. We have done the regulations and so on. We have already hired a DNA custodian. We have already hired a DNA manager. We have already, in fact, purchased the buccal swabs, which involve, and we are, in fact, training individuals, members of the Trinidad Police Service, the Trinidad Prison Service, members of the regional health authorities, in sample collection. Once that is done, we are going to start off with our prison population, because ACT allows us to take samples of everyone who is incarcerated. Then we're going to look at the wider society, populate our database. That would be a game changer in terms of detection, because now we can match certain kind of incidents, fingerprints and whatever, and data collection, database and so on, against our data bank. So we are using technology, but we also strengthen the human resource capacity insofar as detection is concerned. And that's one of our remit. And we along at several other areas of concern that we have been strengthening. We strengthen our deterrence pillar. We have been strengthening our prosecution pillar. We have been strengthening our rehabilitation pillar. So that we are, as a government, we consider crime very important. And therefore, we'll put resources where it is required to strengthen the capacity to ensure that law enforcement, other agencies of national security, are able to conduct their jobs effectively and efficiently.
Now, as you mentioned, the DNA sampling and that sort of thing, would people who are not charged, but they're just suspects in a case, is it mandatory for them to go through the DNA testing? Right.
Once you're charged, and we can take a sample from you. We can do a sample from you. Yes, according to the laws. But let us go back to the National Crime Prevention Program, because I really want to share with the public the whole, because you see, I want to ensure that the public understands the empowerment of communities that we're reaching out to. Crime prevention is about shaping and developing patterns of attitudes and behavior geared towards safety and security and a quality of life of the individuals within a community. Patterns and behavior and attitudes are important, because if we develop a certain, what we call crime prevention consciousness within our various communities, if we develop patterns of crime prevention, then it becomes second nature, because automatically we develop that habit. And most of everything in life is habit forming. As a matter of fact, Aristotle once said, excellence is a habit. Once you practice it, it becomes second nature. Now, if we transmit that in the communities, and developing a crime prevention consciousness, which is attitudes and behavior, then automatically the communities would, by themselves, engender and get rid of the fear of crime, because collectively they have that consciousness. They understand that let us work together as communities. Let us look at solutions. Let's look at the issues that challenges us in the various communities. And all the communities between the 14 municipalities, you find that there are different issues. There may be some commonalities, but there are different issues. Might be in Shogunas might be a different issues. In Cedros Icacos might be a different issues. In Tocos Sangre Grande might be different issues. In Tobago might be different issues. But what is important is that we identify those issues and challenges and look at solutions, because again, remember I mentioned the stakeholders and the Community Crime Prevention Council. It may be an issue that has the attention of the chamber. Maybe one that has the issues of the faith-based organizations or the NGOs within the area. It probably is an issue that has to do with Ministry of Education because of the schools. There may be some issues particular to schools in the area, or the community centers in the area, or the social development areas in the area. But those are identified not from the ministries, not from the government at the top. They identify from the communities who are there in the communities daily. They're there, they understand, they see, they understand what are the issues and challenges. How do we prevent these issues from becoming crime building? How do we work together and prevent those issues? Because you see, as I said, the program is about prevention of crime, because right now we are reactive. We are very reactive in the society. We deal with issues where the minds of the individual have already been developed in terms of committing crimes and so on. So law enforcement reacts. Right? The Agency of National Security reacts. Let us look at a proactive approach. Let us try to deal with the factory that's creating these mindsets. so that we prevent them from an early stage or from a community stage. Let us do a preventative model. But that is notwithstanding that we are still going to continue the law enforcement area. So as I said at the beginning, it's a multidimensional approach. So therefore, any initiative must be also multidimensional. So while we tackle and we deal with the hard law enforcement approach, we also must deal with the preventative model. So prevent the build-up of that factory producing those elements at the end of the day that law enforcement must react to. So that we're empowering those communities, empowering them by creating that Community Crime Prevention Council with all the stakeholders, including the man of the street. And I want to emphasize that, including the man of the street, who can come in and bring issues to that Crime Prevention Council. Now, some may argue that some of these things are happening already, but I dare say they may happen in isolation, so that an individual may enter into one of those communities and say, listen, there's an issue here and there, the case maybe at the police council meetings and so on. But there haven't been that collective effort to bring to bear the various ministries that I talk about, the various stakeholders that I talk about, in a collective manner to treat the issues of crime and criminality. And that's the difference with this program. It brings to bear all the resources at the right time and place to deal with the issues.
So let's talk about the role of the Ministry of Education as well, because
yes.
Many psychologists say that many criminals, when you study their psychological profile, you realize that somewhere along the education system, they either dropped out or something happened. How can we work? Are we planning to work with the Ministry of Education rather, as well in this collaborative fight?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. And let me mention that the National Crime Prevention Program involves ministries across government. Some of the key ministries, in fact, the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, obviously because we involve the 14 municipalities that comes under that government, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, the Ministry of Public Utilities, the Ministry of the Attorney General, and other ministries as deemed necessary. To answer your particular question, there are schools in almost every municipalities that we talk about, in the 14 municipalities and Tobago. There are schools throughout there. And there's issues with schools in particular in some of those jurisdictions. Now, you'll find that the Ministry of Education may be treating those issues by itself.
Yes.
And it may not be the right solution. There may be involvement of other areas of national security, other areas of the community that can help and assist the Ministry of Education. So let's use your example. In a particular area, a school, they may have a situation in a school with respect to either security or defensing, or let's say maybe there have been instances of break-ins and so on, or there may be instances where the school children are not attending schools in particular, or there may be a high dropout rate in the school in one instance. Now, the school principal or one of the supervisors can attend the Community Crime Prevention Council sessions or through the liaison officers and bring this to bear, because that's particular to that community, bring it to bear. Now, when that comes up to the interministerial or even at the Community Crime Prevention Council, we look and see what are the resources that we can bring across the government, including our stakeholders, our NGOs, our faith-based organizations, to assist that particular school. So you see, immediately, we're not uni-focused. We're not dealing with the Ministry of Education solving this problem, but we're bringing together the wider community, the other agencies and resources of the Ministry of National Security. All right, let's use, for example, there may be a high rate of school dropouts. Students may not be going to school, they may linemen on the block and so on. The principal cannot cope with them, as the case may be. Immediately that comes up, and we said, listen, there may be a situation that we can help here. Maybe those individuals, we can put them into one of the youth programs, the MILAT, for instance, the military-led academic and training, which treats with individuals who are the primary and secondary school who have fallen out of the school system, and give them a bit of military training, military discipline, and then fulfill the academic qualifications. Because in that program, you have a number of retired school principals and so on, and teachers who in fact, conducts the academic part of it, and has been a very success story that has yet to be told. The principal of that academy is the former principal of Trinity College, Mr. Llewellyn McIntosh. He is the principal of that academy that handles the academic part. So it's a military base, academic and training. And the success of that is so good in that we have seen students who have dropped out of the normal school system and have been able to acquire their CAPE certificates, the CXC certificates and so on, based on that program, and come out as a changed individual.
Right.
And so I use that example to say, if the Ministry of Education had tried to deal with that issue by itself, you realize the solution would not have been the same. So we bring in all of government, all of society to treat those issues, using your example.
Sure. Now, Minister, we started the conversation by talking about the need for technology and human resources. When we talk about technology and human resources, the question of whether we have enough police officers, it comes to the fore. Would you say that we need more manpower, or is it that we need more training, or both?
Well, let me also, you raise a very important question. the government of Trinidad and Tobago has in fact done the manpower audit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service through Professor Dearceron as the chairman. And part of those recommendations was to look at the use of the manpower resource in Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. They did an extensive survey and look at the amount of police officers that we have presently, those that are required to go on annual leave, sick leave. What is the actual use at the end of the day? What is the effective strength of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service? And out of that, several recommendations were made. So that it is not just about increasing manpower, but it's understanding the dynamics. And at the end of the day, what you need is how can you get the majority of Trinidad and Tobago police officers on the streets to deal with the issue of crime and criminality? Because one of the foundation pillar of crime prevention is actually deterrence. Deterrence is one of the foundation pillar. How can you deter individuals from committing offenses? And one of the strongest way is by your presence. And that has been tested and proven in several jurisdictions. If you go into a particular area and you see almost on every street corner, you see a Trinidad and Tobago police officers supported by a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, you think twice about committing an offense. It's a deterrent factor. So that the bulk of the effort of law enforcement must be deterrent. Preventing, again, is another preventative measure. How do you prevent crime from occurring? And it's one of the areas is by your presence. By your presence and by your quick response to an incident as it happens, because you're on spot. But you also have to use technology, and that's why things like the CCTV system comes about, and modern technology, communications and so on, so that you can respond. That's a deterrent. And it also works alongside, because what we are doing at the crime prevention, at the National Crime Prevention Model in terms of the local government is increasing our municipal police. We are increasing that throughout the 14 municipalities. Right? That has already been on stream. We have trained a number of individuals so far, and we continue. We have said that there will be about 1,000 municipal police throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, they would be employed within the municipalities, but again, they strengthen the presence, working in coordination with the regular police service. Because we believe that, again, that also part of the preventive model. In their presence, they will be there to be able to respond, to react. And very proactive.
Certainly. As we attempt to engage and educate and empower the community, how exactly is this going to take place? All
right. As I mentioned a while ago, the structure. And let's look at the Community Crime Prevention Council, which operates at the level of the municipalities. This is where the engagement takes place. This is where the education takes place. So our first order of business is to engage the respective communities. And I said we are looking at starting off with the Chaguanas Borough, the Diego Martin Corporation, Tobago House of Assembly. So we have already started. As a matter of fact, let me tell you that we have started already to engage those communities. We have had training programs through one of our noted criminologists. We've had some programs that have engaged the mayors, the chairmen of the corporations, the liaison officers. So we've started to build a cadre of education, educating the individual about crime prevention, about the theories of crime, about crime prevention, the attitudes and behaviors. How do we shape the communities? How do we change the communities? How do we change behaviors? How do we change attitudes? So we already expose them to a level of training and a level of sensitization. All right? So engaging the communities must be done at the level of the municipalities. We have to engage those communities, respective communities, based on the community crime prevention program. So there'll be stakeholders meeting, stakeholders awareness. And I said awareness as opposed to consultation, because we already consulted. So we're at the stage of awareness now, building the awareness of the individuals within the communities that this program is about you. This program asks you to engage us. This program asks you to join with the Ministry of National Security and the other agencies, other ministries, and other stakeholders to join in a collective effort to treat the issues of crime and criminality that affects us. So we will engage in those communities. Within those engagements, we now have to educate the communities about crime prevention. What is this crime prevention all about? How do we form part of it? And as I mentioned, crime prevention is about attitudes, behaviors geared towards enhancing safety and security and quality of life within the various communities. So we are going to engage and educate the communities and then empower them. And so give them the power to say that we can find solutions together. We can treat the issues together. If we can't find solutions, then let's see who else we can bring to bear the resources to bring those solutions to us. And let's look at the particular communities. Let's look at the areas of communities. Today we have technology that we can use. WhatsApp group, for instance.
Yes.
So that if you have a WhatsApp group that is community-based, that says everybody within this community on that chat, instant message can be passed. Instant issues can be passed. So using those technologies you'll be able to be proactively true to the issues. And this is what we're looking at now. This program is about a proactive approach, not a reactive approach. So that you use technologies to bring everyone on board within that community. Say, let us work together. Let us join a WhatsApp group together. Everyone is on that chat. Something happens in your neighborhood, immediately it can reach and if it can be treated with. So we can use technologies, CCTV system. Let me interject a little bit here because I have a program, not me, the Ministry of National Security, because I don't use the I word. The Ministry of National Security will be bringing on stream a program called Eyes Everywhere.
Okay.
Eyes Everywhere is a program where we're going to be utilizing the CCTV system, the camera system, not only the government owned, but we want to involve the business sector, the business community, the residents in the various areas, because most homes right now have cameras system. Yeah. So we're going to ask you to share with us, not the cameras that work within your household and so on, those that are in the common areas that focus along the streets, along the byways and so on. We can partition those cameras so that we have access to them. So in event something happens, we can also see what's going on in front of your house, on your streets, in the business sector, across the banks, across the institutions. And what we're asking you to do is share with us those cameras that you have installed. Develop the concept of what we call Eyes Everywhere. Imagine the effect that we will have sharing those facilities. If we tap into those cameras, and I said we can partition those cameras so that you still have you can look and see at your areas and so on. You will look at the common areas, the public areas, because you have cameras that focus on the streets and the highways and so on, and we can tap into that. They give us the idea, again, to be proactive, to be able to respond quickly. Again, it's a community approach. Community, but also business and stakeholder approach. That program is being shaped right now. So if you transmit that in the various communities, where each household may have a camera as a system in case, and we can tap into those things. Yes. You understand what we're dealing with, the multiplier effect. Again, preventative measures. Because if individuals realize that, listen, if I go into these areas, chances are that I will be discovered and dealt upon immediately. They will go somewhere else. And if every place has that, then there's nowhere else to go. And this is what we are looking at.
So can we expect members of the police service in the communities to go in and have, let's say, meetings with residents, like a neighborhood watch group, and you have police officers actually being part of that WhatsApp chat so they are aware of what's going on? Most
definitely, because the police officers in the various areas are part of the community crime prevention program. They're represented in that. Not only police officers, the fire divisional officer in the area is also represented there. You have, as I said, Ministry of Education, Social Development, Community Development. They are all represented in that, together with our business sector, our stakeholders. So it's a wide enough group. So that any issues, there should be some area, somebody, some agency there that can treat the issues, or even bring it to bear to the Community Crime Prevention Council. And this is what we're looking at. Bring those issues to the council. So that, because again, those issues are germane to you. You would know exactly some of the issues in your particular areas. We may not know it at the ministry, but you know it. You know the issues that are germane, you know the issues that are there to bring it to bear, and then we can form and create solutions together.
Sounds wonderful. What about volunteers? Is it that we need to get volunteers on board to assist with the execution of this program?
Most definitely, most definitely. We are looking forward for, within the communities, people to volunteer for this program, especially on the level of the Community Crime Prevention Council. We are looking for volunteers, people who are so interested in what takes place in their community, to volunteer to be part of that Community Crime Prevention Council. Yes. Right? So that, again, volunteerism is something that we must encourage. We must encourage, because we live in a time of economic, things and so on. So that we must be able to get volunteers. And I think, by and large, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago are willing to help. They're willing to be part and parcel of anything that can treat with crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. And I believe, and I really believe, that we will get people volunteering to come forward to assist and be part and parcel of the solution in their respective communities. I mean, when you look at the neighborhood watch groups sometimes that form, you see people coming out.
Yes.
And they're coming together because they believe that we can do something about our neighborhood. We are saying, let's use that now. We can do something about our communities. Let's come out and see, how can I help? And so far, the program was launched last Wednesday. People are already calling and say, how can I be part and parcel of this? How can I assist? How can I be part of this program? Because, again, it's empowering communities. If we in our various communities cannot treat the issues, understand the issues, and be part and parcel, because we cannot be bystanders. We cannot be bystanders in the issues that affect us in the communities. We have to be part and parcel. Let's be proactive. Let's say, I can assist in a small way, however small it might be. Yes. I can assist, whether by my thoughts, whether by my experience, whether by my resources, but merely by contribution, merely by just being there. How can I assist? Because I want to live in this community. I want to be able to have a good quality of life in this community. I want to be able to raise my children in this community without fear of crime. So we can do so by collectively coming together. You see, there is so much in what I call the force of many as opposed to the force of one. If everyone comes together in a proactive manner, they can shape and change that community by, as I said, crime prevention about attitudes, behaviors, and patterns to deal with issues of crime, criminality, safety and security, quality of life in our country.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Minister, for taking the time to chat with us and educate us on this wonderful initiative. It's all about engaging, educating, and empowering everyone to be part of the solution and to prevent crime. So we'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister for being here to keep us informed about what is taking place in terms of the fight against crime.